Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Hey, Craig, are you ready?
You're in fucking Pullman, eating tacos at the zoo. That's why I'm so freaking jealous. All right, that's my short song.
Yeah.
Do you know that song, Jeff?
I do not know that song, but I did
don't-
recognize the elements about the references to Pullman and tacos.
But yes, that is by Nick Jonas, one of the Jonas Brothers, gone out by himself. It's a great song about being jealous, and it has the
Much
F
more
word.
famous
I
than
didn't even put that in. The F word's already in there. But anyways, here, welcome to Podcast versus Everyone. I am Craig Powers, and with me on location in Pullman for spring ball is Jeff Nusser. Jeff, how you doing?
Well, how can I be doing bad? Because I am in God's country, Craig.
God's country, as in Noah's Ark.
Yeah, so I don't know. We'll have to tweet this out to the Pod versus Everyone Twitter account. If you don't follow Pod versus Everyone on Twitter, you should do that, because that's basically the only place I tweet now, which is, if you like tweets from me, then there you go. If you don't like tweets from me, then definitely don't follow. Anyway, we'll have to tweet this out because, yeah, Pullman got some biblical rain today. It was crazy. So I'm in Pullman. I'm working on a couple stories. You guys will see that in the next couple weeks. Got some stuff lined up. It's actually, I'm super excited. Going to do some stuff with the football team. Went to football practice today. Also got an interview with Kyle Smith tomorrow. So I'm super excited about that also. And, being in Pullman is of course always one of the best things. Whenever I can get back, I can get back. In fact, I had, but the reference, Craig, there to tacos. So for people who don't know, I spent my evening tonight at the zoo, what they call it, Club and Grub Zoo, Club and Grub out there, out by CCN, and spent it with a former student of mine, actually, a kid that I had in sophomore English about 8 years ago, which is sort of funny. Former baseball player. His name's Stefan Van Horn. So I don't know if Steph's listening, but if he is, hi Steph. So anyway, I spent the afternoon at football practice, and while we were sitting at dinner, we saw, so there was like biblical rain this afternoon in Pullman, to the point that there was like standing water in the stadium on the artificial turf, which I have never seen before at Martin Stadium. Not even like, so we were sort of comparing it as I was hanging out with Theo Lawson and Brady Johnson, who writes for Kook Fan. We were just kind of talking, and we sort of compared it to the Colorado game a couple of years ago, or was it last year in 2017, right? Which is actually
Right.
the game that the picture for the podcast, it was taken at that game. And so we were sort of comparing it to that, but even that night, I mean, it didn't rain enough to cause standing water in the middle of the field like it did today. And then lo and behold, so I'm at dinner with eating $1.50 tacos for Taco Tuesday with Stefan and a bunch of his friends. And we start seeing video that Grand is completely flooded down by Dismores, to the point where the cops are trying to make sure people aren't trying to drive across it. So yeah, it rained a lot here, and football practice was rather sloppy. We'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah, it rained a lot here, and I'm hoping that tomorrow's at least a little bit nicer. But you know what, Craig, nothing can ruin a trip back to Pullman.
Of course, and I have some very particular memories at the zoo. The last summer I was in Pullman. When I was in school, I worked there's a survey research facility out there. That it's run by WSU. I would work there, and all of us that would work there, it was, it's in the summer, hardly anyone's in Pullman. So my best friends were my coworkers, and we would go out, and a lot of them lived in CCN. So we would we would go to the zoo on any number of nights per week and just get completely blitzed and for almost no money. And so it was great. And they had a bartender at the time. He's pretty famous in Pullman for over serving. His name's his name's Alfredo. He's worked at different places. The last time I saw him was at Rancho Viejo, which is a great place for him because they have those Mexican flag shots that have 151 in them there. So,
Oh yeah, I'm
it
familiar.
doesn't take long to be overserved with that, even with the
No,
fire.
no.
But yeah, so yeah, we'd go out there and just, they wouldn't stop serving you. And then I go sleep on my friend's floor at CCN, and we do it all over again. So
Yeah.
that's my memory of the zoo because I never lived out there. So the first few years I'd never even been there, but I spent a lot of time there my last couple months in Pullman. So yeah, good times. Um, yeah. So, and speaking of drinking, Jeff, what are you drinking right now?
So since I'm in Pullman, I had to go with a Pullman beer. And no, it's not Busch Light. I'm not going with Busch Light. Got a beer from Paradise Creek. So Paradise Creek Brewery here in Pullman. Got the Mujo Coffee Milk Stout, and it is excellent. It's not quite as stouty as I'm used to. It almost kind of goes down like a porter. It doesn't quite have that sort of thick mouth feel that a lot of stouts have, but excellent. It's a good beer. Solid coffee milk stout.
How would you rate that beer other
I
than
don't know
solid
what's
coffee
our
milk
rating.
stout?
What's our rating system this week?
I don't know. I didn't get one from anyone as far
Well,
as I
come
can
on,
tell.
man. What are you doing? Falling
So
down on the job.
I got a question from someone just discovered us. Gator Bodine at I'm That Uncle says Cougs podcast. Apparently, I'm new and in a small town in Alaska. So, of all the Alaskan towns you know of, Jeff, how would you rate that beer?
I don't know Alaskan towns very well, and this is probably not gonna go over great with my wife because she was actually born in Anchorage. So I don't know. Like I have no idea what a solid Alaskan town is. I don't know. Is Juneau a solid I mean, I know Juneau because it's the capital. I don't know. People from Alaska will probably laugh at me. I have no idea. So people from Alaska, do your worst to make fun of me. I can handle it.
Yeah, I don't. I've been to Alaska a couple years ago. I actually had a buddy who so he had two different weddings. The one that was actually the one where he and his wife got legally married was in Alaska, and they had went on a trip up there and they decided they wanted to get married up there. And so they were like, "Oh, Craig and Amanda are our closest friend, like, 'cause that they live closest to Alaska." So we flew up to Alaska to basically be witnesses at their wedding at the Alyeska Resort, which is about 30 miles outside of Anchorage. It's a ski resort. It was in the summer. We were up at the top of the hill. It was beautiful. Seven glaciers all around. But yeah, so that is my experience in Alaska. So I'm also gonna have to, even though I've been there, I can think of a couple cities, so I'm just gonna pick one of those when I do my beer. Um, what I am drinking is called Chuck's First Crush. It is brewed by Reuben's Brewing.
Oh, yeah.
Reuben Brews, I'm sorry, that they go by. So Reuben's does this series called the Crush series. There if you can probably guess the name, they're a hazy beer series, and they do add different hops to it. It'll be, sometimes they'll do this is more along the lines, I think, of their Double Crush because it's at 8%. So it's a nice hazy IPA. When I poured it before we started, it was just super fragrant with like melon and tropical fruit, and it's a crazy fragrant beer. Rubens executes these hazies about as pretty well as anyone who does them regularly in the Northwest. The mouthfeel isn't quite on point, but I think it's really good. It's definitely got that thick cloudiness. And I said the aroma is great. Pretty decent bitter kick, like not a huge bitter kick, but especially for an 8% beer. But overall, it's a very good hazy IPA if that's what you're into. It was brewed for Chuck's Shops Greenwood on 85th. The one of the long-standing beer shops / beer bars in Seattle. Their 9th anniversary. Chuck is he's always based on a lot of things. So he's got this little cartoon version of himself that he puts on his shirts, and so he also has a second beer bar in the Central District of Seattle called Chuck's Central District. So he's a pretty big, important person in the Seattle beer scene. This is very good beer. I went up there. So on Saturday was the day after my birthday, but it was the birthday present that Amanda got me was for the Masonry Farmhouse Festival, farmhouse beers. So before I went to that, where I was going to drink unlimited beer for 4.5 hours, I decided it would be a good idea to go have a couple beers first at the Chuck's anniversary party. And so I did that, and then I went and had 4.5 hours of unlimited beer. And things are a little, hazy.
As I imagine they would be.
My phone, when I woke up that morning, my phone was completely dead and would not charge. So I didn't have a phone. And Amanda so basically we were just trying to plan things out with Amanda picking me up. She basically came by once. I wasn't around at the Masonry. She came by. Eventually I had one of my people I was with, one of my friends I had made along the way, text her, be like, you can come get me now. About 2 hours after she thought. And so apparently I was pretty, I remember being quite huggy with the staff at Browers. I wanted to go to Browers as well. It's right down the street from the Masonry. So I had a good birthday weekend, and a part of it was Chuck's. And I picked up a 4-pack of Chuck's First Crush. And then in my happy drunkenness, gave 2 of them to some of my new friends. So I had 2 left, which is enough for me. I don't need all 4.
So this would be what Kyle Sherwood. So Kyle, who was on our podcast a couple weeks ago, it's what Kyle Sherwood would affectionately refer to as Craig the Beer Fairy. Yes,
I beer ferried just about, handed out these beers, as I am wont to do. I earned that from Kyle at tailgates, where I just bring my fancy beer and shove it down everyone's throat. And treat it as a beer share, but I'm the only one actually sharing.
Close enough.
Close enough, yeah.
Someone's
enough. Sharing. And
someone is sharing. That, by definition, sounds like a beer share.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so this beer, I really like it. I really like this little town called Seward. It's on the bay. It was about on the really slow Alaskan Railway. It was about a 4-hour ride from Anchorage. Just a beautiful area. We did whale watching, saw humpback whales, saw glaciers that go up right to the ocean, and they calve into the ocean, make these super loud sounds. It was a beautiful place. So I think Chuck's First Crush is deserving of to be aligned with Seward. So this is for you, Gator Bodine, if you're listening. Hopefully you are. We did that just for you. So yeah, beer, and sports. I think that's what we talk about here.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
And by the way, can I just say, this is going to sound terrible, but I was really glad to find out that your phone had crapped out. And here's why. Because, okay, so I forgot to wish you happy birthday actually on your birthday, and then I felt super shitty. And so the next day I'm like, oh, damn it. So I sent you a text. It was like, hey, I hope you had a great birthday last night. And then you didn't respond. And I was like, oh.
Never got that.
I was like, Craig's probably mad at me because I forgot to wish him happy birthday. And Sarah was over there following along with your Instagram posts on all the stuff you were drinking. And so anyway, so when you let me know on Sunday that actually your phone had died, I was like, okay, okay, good. like, okay, he's not mad at me. That's good.
Oh, and by the way, it's funny. Amanda asked me, "Oh, has it been free not having a phone?" I was like, "No." Like it's really obnoxious. There's so many like little things that I want to do that I can't do. Like there's been it's just super obnoxious. So
we are slaves. We are absolute slaves.
Yeah, I did maybe if I was in the woods like camping and like I knew that I was gonna be away from technology, that's one thing. But if you're around it and you're like, oh, I got to pull up my laptop to do this instead of just use my phone. Right. Oh, and my Apple Watch which I had just gotten the day before. Like I was so excited to use, and this thing is about 10% capable without the phone.
Oh, so yeah. It's like, if that.
Yeah.
If that.
You
can go for a run without the phone. That's about it.
It's just an expensive fitness tracker at that point. So.
Yeah, but a really nice fitness tracker.
Yeah. A really nice, expensive fitness tracker.
Really nice, expensive fitness tracker for sure.
So I'm back with phone, and I got it this afternoon, and I've been feeling very good and happy, and yeah, so
it's good.
So yeah, so I was able to text you today, Jeff, chatting with you about your time in Pullman. So you were there. You were there at practice today.
I was.
What'd you see? What'd you think? Thoughts, observations, other than it was super rainy?
Yeah. So I was there to sort of pay attention to Leach. I'm working on a story on him, which was kind of hard to do with the rain. But kind of the big takeaway, and so I imagine by the time people listen to this, it'll probably go up Wednesday morning. By the time people listen to this, they may have already read maybe other practice reports from either Coug fan or the spokesman. But the big development was that Gage Gubrud practiced for the first time in some sort of it certainly wasn't full capacity, but he definitely practiced in most participation. And so he was out there. He looked really, really good, actually. Kind of early on in practice before they did sort of any kind of skeleton or team type activities. He was just kind of goofing around with some of the other quarterbacks and, seemed to be, moving pretty well. He did a little light jogging. I was like, okay, well then later, he did some skeleton drills, he didn't do any 11 on 11 things, but did a whole bunch of skeleton stuff, did some, individual quarterback drills where they, they'll have a quarterback, practice their drop back and then they'll point in a direction and they'll, shuffle to that side and that side or whatever, it's kind of to mimic, pocket movement. He did those without any kind of a limp at all, what you would expect. So, as he was throwing the ball, he looked good, looked confident, looked poised. I mean, all these things that he did throwing the ball were, definitely drills, for the most part. Like I say, he did do some skeleton, which is just for those people who don't know, it's just the quarterback and receivers plus the linebackers and defensive backs. So just kind of almost, more of a 7-on-7 kind of deal, and looked really good. Looked excellent to the point where, I don't know if he's that far away from, and I guess it kind of depends on what the coaching staff wants to do. But, I certainly wouldn't be shocked if he got to a point where he played in the spring game. I mean, he really looked that good. He didn't participate at all in 11 on 11 stuff, which is of course where, you're sort of facing the live stuff and, maybe you tweak a thing because you try and do a thing that, instinctively your body wants to do during a competitive moment. But, it would not shock me at all. I mean, they've got, whatever, another week and a half before the spring game. Really wouldn't shock me at all if he got to a point where, where he was participating in that game. So yeah, pretty interesting there. Anthony Gordon, Trey Tinsley. I know, that's kind of the other part is they want to know how those guys are doing. I would say, and again, this is all with the huge caveat that it was a freaking disaster out there with the rain and the wind. But I would say, Tinsley, Gordon probably looked better during like the drills and the skeleton, but during the team portion, Tinsley definitely looked better there. So, it's kind of interesting. I wonder if, how much you can learn from each part. I know the coaches probably have a better handle on that, but not probably. The coaches have a better handle on that. But, I kind of wonder how much of Tinsley, is kind of him being a gamer. Luke Falk was sort of famous for looking pretty pedestrian in practice, and then getting out on a field, particularly during the end of his freshman year and then into his sophomore year, playing really well during games. So I don't know, maybe Tinsley has a little bit of that in him. I certainly would say there was nothing with Gubrud that led me to think, okay, this guy is probably not going to be the quarterback, or is going to be in for some sort of big fight heading into next season. Even just in the limited action, he threw some really nice balls and looked like he'd probably be the guy. And then, the other two guys, so I know I'm kind of rambling at this point, but the other two guys, if people want to know about Cameron Cooper and Gunnar Cruz, Cameron Cooper took the third set of reps with the first team offense. So when they split up into both skeleton and then also did their 11-on-11 team portion, Cruz. So it went, I believe it went Tinsley, Gordon, and then Cooper running with the ones. So, and he looked pretty good. Looked better than Gordon. Again, it's tough to say how much of that is, whatever the weather or whatever, but Cooper looked pretty good. Was pretty impressive. The one thing that I kind of took away that, you kind of have to be there to see is Gunnar Cruz is huge. That is a big kid. And he might be 2 full inches taller than Cooper, and Cooper's supposed to be 6'4". So it's and he is muscular and well built, and my goodness, man, that kid looks, he looks every bit the part of a big time quarterback. Looked pretty, throwing the ball, good, throws a good ball. Also looked a little slow with his reads, just like, any new quarterback, running the air raid. John Bledsoe threw the ball pretty well, but kind of the same deal, a little faster with his reads, but again, not quite the same arm talent. So I don't know. There's your quarterback report. Gubrud looked good in his first action. The other two guys looked fine. Cooper looked pretty good, and then it kind of dropped off from there.
But Jeff, the big question during spring ball, did Gubrud look good, or did the defense look bad?
I know, right? That's always the $1 million question, right? Is like, is this defense, is this good defense or bad offense, or good defense or good offense or bad defense? Yeah, the defense kind of had a little bit of an easy go of it today because the weather was so bad. The offense kept, they were dropping balls and fumbled the ball a couple times, and it's really hard to overstate how much of a disaster it was out there. We got to a point, like I tried to kind of get close to the field so that I could kind of hear what the coaches were saying for my story, kind of trying to get some anecdotes, and eventually just sort of retreated up to basically where your season tickets are, under the club seats, so that I could stay dry. And that didn't even help totally because it was still so windy, and I don't know, it was about 40 degrees out, so 45 degrees. So anyway, yeah, it's, the defense, again, it's whatever. Tough to say.
So speaking of the season tickets, I'm going to have to move them slightly over because we were camped right under a bird's nest or something, and it was just covered in bird shit all the time.
Oh my gosh, I walked past that on
year.
My way out. I saw the
those are my
pile
seats
of bird shit. Oh my gosh. I was like, wow, that's
I would send an email every week to the athletic department, like please clean it at least before the game. And my sister, because I was out of the country the last couple of games, my sister used my tickets and she just got pooped on a lot. I at least never got pooped on during the game. But anyways, yeah. So how about, did you notice anything in the secondary with all the new guys there? Did you see maybe who was playing the safety position, the strong safety position, or anything like that?
Yeah, so they rotated a lot of guys around, but the one thing I would say is just sort of like standing next to the group when they were doing some positional things. They're definitely, there's a noticeable size difference in terms of what they maybe have been in the past with maybe some smaller guys. And they just looked really impressive. They're physical. Daniel Isom so he's one of the JC kids.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bounce back D1 guy. He basically was working with the starters. He got an owie somewhere near the end of practice. It was tough to see exactly what it was. Maybe like it tweaked an ankle or something. The surface was pretty slippery out there because of all the rain. But up until that point, had looked great. I think it was kind of tough for me to see at times again because I was kind of hiding, trying to hide up under the cover. But I do believe that Beekman was playing next to Jalen Thompson, and then Skylar Thomas, who was the safety back there next to Thompson last year, was playing nickel. And it seems like, I know that move was made a few practices ago. It seems like that's kind of where he's entrenched now with the first team. So yeah, that's kind of what I saw. I mean, the defensive backs I thought looked really good. And again, it's tough to say. The weather was terrible and whatever, but it definitely will encourage. It seems like from the talent they've got down there.
Well, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it in person, and that's less than 2 weeks now. 11, or it'll be 10 days when we launch this. So I'm really excited for the spring game to be back in Pullman. And the big question I have for you is, what was it like to stretch those reporter muscles again?
Oh my gosh. It's like, I just sort of like, it's kind of like riding a bike, but I don't know, if there's any readers out there who rode a bike when they were a kid and then tried to ride a bike when they were an adult. And I actually had this experience not that long ago. And so, I don't ride bikes very much. And I rode a bike and it's a little wobbly at first. That's kind of what this was like. I'm out there covering practices and something I haven't done in quite a long time. So, but yeah, it's super fun. It was super, super fun. Other big things I noticed. So Cassidy Woods, I wrote about this about a week ago. Cassidy Woods was an outside receiver who's made the move to the inside, and he's a big kid. About 6'3", 220 or 6'4", 220, something like that. He was an absolute beast from his inside receiver spot all day long. Now he had kind of some ups and downs, but the ups were beastly, for lack of a better term. He had one, stretch during the 11-on-11 where he took, there's a running play where Cole Dubats, who's the converted linebacker playing running back this spring, he had a long touchdown run, maybe about 35 yards or something. And Woods just absolutely, he blocked Skylar Thomas about 20 or 30 yards downfield. Like he just took him for a ride all the way down the field. And it wasn't that wasn't the block certainly that sprung Dubats, but it was the kind of block that allows a 15-yard run to become, a 30 or 40-yard run, that kind of block. And then later, he caught a red zone touchdown on Thomas, did a little like kind of a post thing from his inside spot and caught a touchdown from there. And then later caught a touchdown, another red zone touchdown, doing a little like kind of corner route thing from the inside. So really impressed with him. I don't know, man, just watching it does not seem like a novelty. And I think that was sort of the thing that people were worried about when they saw the report about, him moving on the inside, that maybe it would be a little bit of a novelty, the Andre Lentz variety, right? So Andre Lentz being the great fabled, tight end that never was for Mike Leach. But from watching him play today, from watching Woods play today, certainly seemed like, it did not seem like a novelty, I guess is the way I would put it, that it seemed like this is a legit move and could create some really interesting matchup problems for some other defenses. Defensive line, Lamont McDougal, he is a beefcake. Like that dude is just, he looks like a nose tackle I know he's a little bit, smaller than the NFL nose tackle types. He's a hair under 300 pounds, but he just sort of has that body shape. He's very stout. He's got the gut going. Just kind of fun. He didn't really cause a lot of disruption up the middle. And I get the sense that just kind of from the practice reports I've read that that's what the coaching staff is looking for from him, because as much as we sort of with Taylor Comfort, we kind of wondered, I don't know, like we looked at Taylor Comfort and went, this guy like so much does not look the part. Right. But he was very disruptive and like shockingly so, right, when the season started. So I think they're looking for a little more of that out of McDougal. As I said, he wasn't all that disruptive today, but he certainly looks like the kind of guy who is going to be able to do some damage. They got a few sacks coming off the edge. Again, it was rainy out, and then the other part was actually Liam Ryan got a little owie during practice, so he's moved out to left tackle to replace Andre Dillard, moved out from left guard to left tackle. Sometime shortly after Bull in the Ring, which is how they start practice, he came up swearing and limping, but it didn't look too serious. He was taking part in some exercises that they have the guys who get injured during practice taking part in some exercises. Tried to come out and give it a go and just couldn't. So I'm optimistic that whatever happened to him is probably not a huge deal. And but I think the left tackle spot was a little iffy at times from there, but seemed to do okay for the most part.
Great, man. I know that you were a bit hampered because of the rain and you had to buy you had to go with the old school notepad and everything, but that was great. Particularly interesting, just recapping that long report is going back to Cassidy Woods. Just when I read those reports, immediately what I thought of was Andre Lentz. Like you said, that was exactly what I thought of. But it's very encouraging to hear, particularly on the blocking side, because we've had, probably going back to Falk's senior year, we had some struggles, especially in the blocking from the inside receivers, which is very, very important to the screen game and very, very important to the running game. So it sounds great to just have a big dude just mashing little tiny nickel corners and then just running right behind him. And just having that, because this team's already pretty stacked at inside receiver with 3 returning very good players, and just to have another guy that comes along and adds a totally different element is makes it exciting. That's the part we talk about with this. You're talking about the quarterbacks rotating in and out, but when you're looking at it, you're adding another element with Woods in the slot, just even more talent and depth in the rotation, and already great players on the outside, great players on the inside. Like whoever gets the quarterback job is going to put up numbers because of that.
They are crazy deep at receiver. It's really sort of tough to I don't know, man. It's tough to describe it. When you watch, on one side you got Des Patman and Aesop, Winston kind of going for it, and then on the other side you see Calvin Jackson and Tay Martin, and then like we said, Cassidy Woods and Jameer Calvin's not even playing. Terrell Harris caught a really long touchdown from Trey Tinsley, kind of at the start of the team portion. So yeah, they are really, really good and really, really deep at receiver, and it's, whoever ends up playing quarterback, they've got the best, the best security blanket that they could possibly have, which is, a really, really good, really deep set of receivers.
And Max Borghi.
And Max Borghi, who had a quintessential Max Borghi touchdown run today from, I don't know, had to be about the 7 or 8 yard line, did a little red zone thing, and he takes the handoff and then sort of hides behind the offensive line and then just kind of hops around, and then all of a sudden, boom, he's gone and just kind of walked into the end zone. It was very impressive and very Max Borghi, and I am very glad that he is ours and not Stanford's or Colorado's.
Absolutely. All right, man. I'm glad you're in Pullman. I'm glad you got to stretch out those reporting muscles. Hope you didn't pull anything. And I'll look forward to more next week. We'll talk about, your chat with Kyle Smith and whatever else you're
Yeah.
doing with Leach and everything there. And so yeah. Well, speaking of basketball, I guess since we were talking about Kyle, we've hammered the Kyle Smith point home for the last couple weeks, so we'll give you guys a break for like
Are
a
you sure?
second.
Because we could talk some more. I mean, I could probably talk forever about my love for Kyle Smith.
We'll take a 1 week break,
Yeah. I think
and
the
then
listeners probably are thankful for that.
and then you can fawn over him next week after you meet the man in person.
Oh, and I will. I will absolutely. There will be fawning. So that's for sure. You can
But
count that.
But we do have to talk about basketball because we are basketball nerds after all. And one of my favorite, it's funny, it just seems stupid it's on a Monday, but one of my favorite nights of the year is Championship Monday. I put so much stock in it. I love it. It doesn't matter who's in it. It's a big deal to me. One shiny moment's a big deal to me. It's the purest and raw emotion of college sports, and it's amazing how just putting a couple student sections there can take a very holy corporate environment and make it still somewhat fun, because you look on the sidelines and it's like all these people in suits and you're like, this is stupid, but then they show those students losing their minds in the baseline, and it's pretty great. But yeah, so Virginia, Texas Tech. Obviously, before the game, before the entire Final Four, you had primarily defensive focused teams. But Virginia and Texas Tech were the two biggest. Well, Michigan State was pretty big too, but the two biggest defensive stalwarts, and they prevailed and made it to the title game with two young coaches who we've talked about Tony a lot. I wouldn't mind talking about Chris Beard a little bit because he's amazing. But yeah, two young coaches. It was really cool to see two programs who had never been there before. Someone was going to win something new. It just felt like there's a different level of passion and enthusiasm around it. And just a certain different level of importance, like, because if like Duke or North Carolina is winning another title, like it's not that interesting to me, even though they usually it's the players that make it interesting. Watching Zion is always great, but it was fun to watch two just very disciplined, very dedicated and teams who have clear systems in place and coaches that are dedicated to certain ways of doing things, and I think a lot of us thought it was going to go that way. I personally I was still excited to watch it regardless, because after these many years of Ernie, I love watching a freaking closeout, and I love watching a box out and a defensive rebound, and that just kind of stuff is actually pretty interesting now. But this game featured just some players balling out, hitting tough shots, and just the excitement level was, replay notwithstanding, but the excitement level was about as high as you can get for a national championship game. Obviously, Virginia prevailed. Jeff, I think we talked about Tony Bennett enough last week, so we won't talk about that. But yeah, that was pretty cool to see Virginia win. What were your thoughts on the game overall?
I mean, similar to yours, it was two really excellent teams. The sort of the big takeaway was I think sort of validation of the fact that these two teams were known for their defense, but in the end it was really their offenses that separated them. Obviously the whole first to 46 thing was extremely tongue in cheek, but there. Yeah, right. But there was a certain amount of, these are just two really, really, really good defenses. I mean, I was frankly blown away by what Texas Tech did to Michigan State. Michigan State couldn't run anything. Texas Tech was on them. And I think the thing that, was sort of most amazing about what that defense does. And so for people that don't know, when we've talked before on this podcast about Ken Pomeroy's stats and about KenPom.com and all that stuff, and adjusted efficiency and all those kinds of things. Texas Tech's adjusted defensive efficiency is like not just really good this year, but it's like really good for any year, like historically good. And, as I watch them, and I don't get to watch a lot of college basketball during the season these days. I spend my time watching the Cougs, and after that, it's sort of like, whatever I can catch, which isn't a whole lot. So for a lot of these teams, I don't really get to see them that much until the tournament. And man, Tech's defense just blew me away. What's amazing about what they do is that, they're like, so one of the things that the pack line defense prioritizes is, so to talk about Virginia for a sec, because Virginia obviously has the reputation of being a great defensive team, just like Tony Bennett's teams did here. They protect the rim at all costs. They'll give up some threes. And the other thing they don't do is they don't really generate a lot of turnovers. They're not really concerned with that. They're just concerned with, funneling players to spots where they're going to take difficult shots, or there's going to be, more help from teammates, those kinds of things. The Texas Tech defense forces a shit ton of turnovers. And so when you take, basically Virginia's defense and then add, forcing turnovers on 25% of possessions, I mean, that's how you create an elite, like historically elite defense. Right. And then you add Tariq Owens, who was their shot blocking center. And I really think that he hurt his ankle in the game against Michigan State. I really think that injury affected Texas Tech's defense pretty strongly against Virginia. But Virginia's offense was no slouch, and you could probably, I'll throw this back to you to talk about, but Virginia, just like Tony Bennett's offense is, when he was here, didn't get a lot of credit because the defenses were so good and because the offenses weren't scoring 80 points a game. Virginia's offense was really, really, really freaking good and deserves much more attention than it gets.
Absolutely, yeah. That's a crazy we were chatting on Slack last night, and it was just Virginia ended the season with the number 2 adjusted offensive efficiency in the country on KenPom. Like per possession, it was Gonzaga and then Virginia.
Which, by the way, was higher than their defense ranked.
Yeah, their defense was fifth. This is how Tony Bennett has built a perennial top 5 team and now a championship. It's not just the defense. He has the offense to go along with it. Texas Tech was able to have a very good offense, but not like an elite offense, but just one of the greatest defenses we've seen in the last 20 years, or that since we've been measuring it the way we do now. It's harder to measure in the past, but their defense per possession was as good as you're gonna see, period. And like you said, in a different way, but Virginia was able to, and obviously Owens' injury played in this, but Virginia was able to effectively shred their defense. They put up 1.21 points per possession against a defense that in Big 12 play, which is generally seen as an offensive conference, but that gave up 0.93 points per possession in Big 12 play, which is one of the best conferences in the country, especially offensively. And Tony Bennett's offense with Kyle Guy and Hunter and Jerome and all those guys was able to put up 1.21, which is just crazy. And that speaks to how good the mover blocker offense has come offensively. And once you plug the right guys in, because obviously they're not getting 5-star recruits there, but they are getting top 100 recruits, and Hunter is going to be a top 10 pick probably, and so it's not like they're devoid of talent. But they're definitely don't have the talent of a Duke or a North Carolina or Kansas or whatever, what have you. But they've created this amazing offense, and that's why they're winning the national championship. That's why they're top 5 team every year, is because their offense has caught up to and in some ways surpassed their defense, which is crazy and not fair. And Congrats to Tony. We talked about him a lot last week. How about Chris Beard though, man? Texas Tech went to the national championship game.
Right?
Texas and they had that thing, man.
Yeah.
It took a late three from Munter, and it's crazy. It's crazy. He lost, I think, 6 major contributors off last year.
Yep.
And off an Elite Eight team, and they
Yep.
came back and they were better.
Yep. You got a couple of grad transfers, which helps.
And then Jarrett
of course,
Culver,
having Jarrett Culver, that helps a lot.
yeah, just hit the lottery with him. Obviously, there's talent identification and recruiting, but he wasn't a super high level recruit. He was a higher level recruit, but he wasn't a 5-star by any means. But he definitely plays like it, and just so impressed. I read an article in the Athletic today. Thanks to Kyle Sherwood pointed out to me about the way that Texas Tech has invested in the. So we can tie this back to WSU basketball. So because my thinking, if Texas Tech can do this, then we can at least do something approximating it. So they're talking about how they've invested in basketball. Beard makes a good salary, makes up over $3 million, so that's what made him harder to push for other programs. Guys, I don't think he's going to be. There's not a position left open that he would go to at this point, at least this year. And he has a nice connection with Texas Tech, having been an assistant there under Bobby Knight. So, as you might remember, he was the coach at UNLV for about a week until he moved to Texas Tech.
So I had totally forgotten about that until I looked up. I just was just doing a little. I was like, man, what don't I know about Chris Beard, right? So I started looking, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. He was the coach at Little Rock, and then I looked, and I went, oh shit, I totally forgot about the UNLV thing. He was like the coach at UNLV for 5 minutes, and then gets lured back to Texas. I mean, if you're UNLV, are you just like, God damn it. You were so close to having Chris Beard, right?
I mean, it's we maybe WSU fans and UNLV fans can just go have a pity party together as we're watching our potential great coaches that we once had in hand.
Might be the first
in the championship game.
WSU fans and UNLV fans had anything in common, but
aside from having fun in Las Vegas, I don't know.
Well, that's that's aside from partying too much and getting yourself in trouble. I don't know.
But,
other than that.
But yeah, so the interesting thing from that Athletic article, aside from being reminded that he was at UNLV for a week, was just the way Texas Tech invests in. So they invest in a lot of extra graduate assistants, so basically they're able to have the players do extra workouts both in the strength and conditioning part and in the shoot around, in the gym part, whenever they want to. They give the option to them to do whatever they want to because they have all these extra graduate assistants. There's a lot of investment around that, and that's and then they obviously they've invested in their recruiting budget, so that when a guy comes available, like Owens, and was it Mooney, as soon as he came up as an option, they say he was the day he announced that he would transfer, they were up there talking to him. So that's that they've invested. So basically so we talk about the way that Kyle Smith is looking for inefficiencies. Chris Beard and Texas Tech have basically looked for inefficiencies by just investing in areas that they feel they can control, and just make, because they don't have the big basketball building yet. They are going to get one, and I think that helps keep Beard there, of course, because they're going to build a $29 million facility for the women's and men's team. But for now, they're creating that edge and being able to land certain guys in recruiting just through through having just an overwhelming number of staff and like a larger staff than typical. Obviously, beyond the certain allowed number of assistant coaches you're allowed to have, so you supplement that with graduate assistants and such, which obviously the school has to invest in through paying for their school and then a stipend and things like that, whatever. So I don't know how much Texas Tech, where that probably comes around $40,000-$50,000 a year, I would imagine. But yeah, but I think paying for the recruiting and being able to jump on a plane whenever, private jet and stuff, that's probably where you see a lot of the expense. And so they invest they invest as of 2 years ago data, 7th most of the 10 teams in the Big 12 in money. From what I'm thinking is where does that investment come from WSU? Obviously, Kyle Smith wants to put in these cameras and sensors and things so that he can measure players the way he wants to be. And Jeff, what I'm thinking is I hope that, I hear that support that the athletics department gave Chris Beard to basically build the team that he wanted to, and a top 5 team who made it to the national championship game and damn near won it, and made it to the Elite Eight the year before that, and it looks like they may be around for a while. I'm hoping that Chun has the same attitude with Smith and will kind of give him what he needs to succeed.
I think the idea is you're looking at these places kind of around the margins, right, where you can create some value, right? These inefficiencies, whatever, where are these areas where you can kind of get the most bang for your buck? And I always kind of thought, I kind of thought about this a lot in terms of football, but I would think it would apply to basketball as well. Kind of what you talked about, like, being, maybe you invest some more money in recruiting, sure. Okay. So I can't right now build a $30 million practice facility, right? Like that's not something that's happening anytime soon, but could I spend, and I have no idea if this is the right number, but could I spend $100,000 on a player movement tracking system, right? That's going to give me data on my players. Is that something that is going to provide some value on the margins? So, I hope and I assume. I say I hope, but I assume that Wazoo is looking at these things under Smith, under Chun. Leach obviously did get the big facility, but if there are things he thinks he can do on the margins, I think those are the things that we definitely need to be looking at. I don't know if we can, do what we do on the scale that Texas Tech did. But that definitely maybe, provides some hope, if you're, thinking about things in a creative way and looking for places where you can find value. Heck, that's how Mike Price won 2, Pac-10 championships and went to 2 Rose Bowls. Not that all of his players were like this, but, he certainly had a significant number of, non-qualifiers and partial qualifiers who, back when you could take those, Prop 48 kids in the Pac-10, and those guys, Leon Bender was one of those guys on the 97 team that went to the Rose Bowl. He was defensive tackle, was kind of, had a long list of academic challenges. But, that was a way that Mike Price sort of used an inefficiency. He was like, okay, well, we can take these guys and we'll be patient with them. And, maybe we get guys who are more talented who, just need us to work with them. And, anything we can do on that front. And I was begging for that from Ernie for years and years. It's just somewhere, find something on the margin. And the margin he settled on was junior college transfers, which of course was the dumbest idea that any coach has ever had at a high major, and, got him shown the door for the handsome sum of, $4 million, but whatever.
I did see there was an interesting quote from Beard, where it was kind of paraphrased, but basically he says that he knows he's not going to outcoach, Bill Self and some of the other coaches in the Big 12, but he values having an older team, which I thought was interesting. And that's when you think about but he didn't go look for junior college transfers as much as he got those graduate transfers. And but those can be hit or miss too as well. WSU had middling success with like Drick Bernstein, um, but yeah, going out and getting the best guys requires some resources and some identification, and just obviously it helped them having been to the Elite Eight the year before to bring in Mooney and Owens, and they were huge for this run. Obviously, like Mooney was down the stretch like the guy for them. So yeah, so it's pretty interesting. But yeah, so I'm hoping, honestly, Texas Tech, even though I think they have more resources to invest in basketball than we do for sure. But still, it's they've seen it as an out of the way place in the Big 12, and we're the out of the way place in the Pac-12. So hopefully that provides some encouragement that we can be better, we can find margins, we can create a basketball team that maybe is not we're competing for national titles, but is competing, for Sweet 16s or NCAA tournaments or what have you.
Yep. And you just never know when a team is going to jump up and surprise you, like our beloved Mariners.
Well, yeah, man. I told you before. I wanted to talk about them before this all
before they suck, because it's going to happen.
Like we're the Mariners fans. The Mariners have this amazing ability to do exactly what you didn't think they were going to do for the first month of the season. We've had years when we thought they were going to be good and they just come out and shit the bed. But man, I'll tell you, man, this first 13 games, they're 11-2. They've been a blast because hitting dingers, scoring runs. The two losses both came, it's very reminiscent of the late 90s teams. The two losses both came because of bullpen meltdowns. I was having flashbacks to Bobby Ayala and Norm Charlton when he just went off a cliff. And so I just I'm like, hey, if you're gonna I know they're gonna cool down obviously, but the nice thing is there's so many guys hitting, you would hope that they don't all cool down all at the same time, and some of this is somewhat realistic. It seems like Edwin Encarnacion could be somewhat realistic, and Domingo Santana can be somewhat realistic. Obviously, Daniel Vogelback is not going to slug 1,500 the entire year.
Hey, you watch your mouth. He went
3 for 5 with 2 doubles and a single today, and lowered his slugging percentage and lowered his on base percentage.
Okay, maybe that's unrealistic,
but I mean, honestly,
Vogel's my guy.
But Vogelback should have been playing last year. He should have been playing over Healy last year, but even Healy's playing well this year. I'm kind of just stay injured, Kyle Seager. You were terrible last year, so. But yeah, so Vogie is a baller. I watched, I live in Tacoma Town in T-Town. I watched him last year, and he, it's just the thing that's fun to watch or not. I don't even. It's fun to watch. I mean, it's creating these 4-hour games. But the thing that is encouraging is, they're mashing dingers and just having these ridiculous streaks of hitting. But they just see pitches, man, and they work counts. They take walks. Even the guys that last year, guys like Healy and Gordon, that were just not. They're seeing more pitches. They're laying off pitches more. But then you got guys like Vogelback and guys like Santana and guys, this new catcher who Navarez, like just guys who just take pitches and they're just like murder on pitch counts. Like Casey's starter tonight went 4 innings because and he had given up 4 runs, but it was like he was already nearing 100 pitches in 4 innings. And they do this every single game, and all their games have been 3.5 hours. But that's what makes you think like maybe there's something there. But it's, as a Mariners fan, you have a hard time. I'm just trying to enjoy the moment, and then just it's kind of like last season. Although the last season we were like, oh, it's the run differential is going to be our downfall, but now they have this like crazy big run differential. So you're like, I'll find some other reason not to believe in them.
I mean,
But
if
yeah,
you're going
so
to average 8 runs a game, you're going to be fine.
Yeah, just keep
That's
averaging. You know what? If Daniel Vogelbach is going to have a 2,000 plus OPS all year, I think they're going to be okay. Like, just stick him in the middle of the lineup, and you're automatically going to score like 5 runs a game.
I mean, we don't know that Vogelbach can't keep doing this.
We don't know because he's never had a full season.
Exactly. He's never had the opportunity he has right now. He could keep doing this.
He could post a freaking Barry Bonds level walk rate all year.
He could.
You don't know. Yeah.
It's possible. You know what? His eye was pretty legendary in the minors.
Yeah. It actually was. And that's something that translates. But yeah, right now he's mashing. He's fun to watch. I mean, he's worth like a one win above replacement rate. That's like Mike Trout level, like, and playing at DH, like it's like Mike Trout level production already. We got
with no defense, no contribution from defense at all.
Well, and the Mariners have a couple guys right now, like Tim Beckham, and he's been out for a couple of years. He's like playing over. So they basically bet a bunch of They were they took a bunch of chances on a bunch of guys as ceilings, basically, and they got Jay Bruce hitting a ton of dingers. They have Daniel Vogelbach like hitting better than he ever has in his life. They got Tim Beckham playing like the #1 draft pick that everyone thought he was. You have D. Gordon's hitting over 300 again. Like Ryan Healy is producing at third base. It's like and Edward Encarnacion is hitting. What do you think? Domingo Santana is playing as well as you could possibly hope for. Like, it's just crazy. Like it's fun that it happens at the start of the season, because then you get these like gaudy records like 11-2 and things like that. Because the team can win 11-13 in the middle of the year and it's fun, but it's like depending on what they've done the rest of the year, it could just be them making up ground, which is typically what it is with the Mariners. But it's fun to bust out to this lead, but ultimately, like, you still, as a Mariners fan, are like, you're just going to break our hearts again. So I'm not even going to invest.
Well, and let's be honest, dingers are fun, right? I mean, that's...
Dingers, yeah.
You can...
33 dingers in 13 games.
Which, again, back to that's, almost certainly unsustainable, but at the same time, it's like, it's fun, and it's kind of nice, because I've definitely, fallen out of love with the Mariners to a large degree. I've become a big soccer fan, as I know you are as well, but big fan of the Sounders. I only have so much time in my life to watch games. The Mariners have just sort of pissed me off for the better part of 25 years, and it's just sort of like you just it's just nice to have something that you can smile about and something that you can like. And again, last year it was sort of like, how are they doing this? They were winning all these close games, and you just kind of go, eventually the wheels are going to fall off. And they did. This, I don't know that this is necessarily any more sustainable, but this is hella fun. Like, it's just, you watch them and, oh, there goes another homer. Oh, there goes another homer, And then the other thing I kind of notice about him is, and again, it's one of those sort of, I try not to play, armchair psychologist with athletes and teams or whatever. So for whatever this is worth, but, they really do seem to sort of enjoy playing the game together. And again, I don't know how much of that is, chicken or egg type thing. Are they enjoying it because they are, mashing the crap out of the ball and beating everybody, or are they beating everybody because they're enjoying playing together? So obviously I don't know the answer to that. And I usually will lean towards they feel good because they're playing well. But I will say that last year's team seemed to be dysfunctional. I mean, they did have a fist fight in the, before a game, that Scott Service is like, oh, that happens all the time. And I'm like, okay, I guess. But I don't recall reading a lot, like every year about, oh, it's the annual fist fight, so, and I wonder how much of that was, getting rid of some of the guys, guys such as, Gene Segura and Robinson Cano. I have a hard time believing Edwin Diaz would be a part of that as a guy who was in the bullpen. But Cano and Segura and sort of those guys, I do kind of wonder, how much of that was maybe just, some dysfunction within the clubhouse. So I don't know that, chemistry, I mean, we make fun of you and our listeners probably don't know this, but you and I have made fun of chemistry, many a time over the years, but I don't think chemistry leads you to winning, but I do think that bad chemistry can maybe prevent you from being everything you can be. So these guys are fun. They seem to be having fun, and I'm having fun. And baseball is fun when you're hitting dingers.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. Compared to those Dipoto teams that were built on run prevention, this team is built on just extending pitch counts and producing runs just by having base runners. It's a very kind of, at this point, an old school method of doing things. If you're going 20 years ago, Billy Bean style, but yeah, it's fun. And I am, you were talking about being, the Sounders and everything, but I'm doing the double dip on Saturday, spending the day away from my daughter again. So it kind of came together. My dad was he's coming over from Yakima with his work group on a bus, and they're going to the Mariners game, and it ended up his wife couldn't go, so he had an extra ticket. So I was like, oh yeah, I'll go up. And then Michael Preston, our other podcasting colleague.
Original
podcasting. Well, no. We had that really shitty podcast.
Oh, that is
2009.
True. That is true. I had a shitty podcast, and then I gave it to Michael and was like, "Please make this better," which he did.
Yeah, that was bad. I think most people are like, "Is Craig okay?" Like,
that's right. Is Craig sleeping, or
sleeping?
Or did Craig just wake up, or?
I got that a lot. In my defense, I was living in Tennessee when we were recording that, and usually it was like at midnight when we were recording, but whatever. But yeah. So yeah, Preston, messaged me, and he's like, I got an extra ticket for Saturday, and so we're gonna go eat some pastrami sandwiches, and then go to the Sounders, and then I'm gonna go to the Mariners. It's like double dip. It's going to be great, and hopefully the Mariners hit some dingers, and hopefully the Sounders keep doing what they're doing, and I see a few goals, and I get lots of moments of celebration, but I have this great fear that the Mariners have been scoring all these runs, hitting all these dingers, and they're going to lose like 2-0.
I am super jealous that you get to go, by the way. I'll be in Leavenworth with my family, but yeah, I'm very, very jealous. I did the double one time last year. Did that with my buddy JoJo, and we did the Sounders and then did the Mariners, and it was everything I hoped it would be, for sure.
Yeah, and
Are you getting the socks, by the way? Are you getting the socks?
The socks?
So there are co-branded socks, and I don't know if you can only acquire those if you buy both tickets. I don't know how this works, but I do know that there are co-branded Sounders Mariners socks.
Well, that sounds like something I would love to have, but
because you are a sock guy, by the way, your sock game is on point.
Yeah, I love me some socks. I was actually wearing some Sounders socks this weekend, and they were on point. But yeah, I will be on the lookout for those socks. I'm super stoked. I've never done the double before. Every year I'm like looking for a weekend to do it. It just never works out. So I'm stoked to do it for the first time. It's going to be a lot of, I'm sure I'll have a few beers. I'll have some terrible food. I'll get to see my dad, which is great. He'll be pretty drunk because for the bus over, they got like a catering license, so they can bring their own beer and get drunk on the bus. So from 2.5, 3 hours from Yakima, so he'll be in good shape by the time he reaches me, and I'll probably be in good shape by the time I reach him. So it'll be fun, and hopefully the Mariners mash some dingers and the Sounders score some goals. But yeah, so I don't know if you guys know this. We're a WSU podcast, and we're all also Mariners and Sounders fans. So if these seasons continue for those two teams, you're especially in the summer probably going to hear more and more about them.
Yeah, we're Seattle fans too. So
yeah,
sorry everyone who's not Seattle fans, but whatever. You can just turn it off just like you do when we start talking politics.
Oh man, politics.
Yeah, we stepped in that one last week.
That got us in trouble. Mostly you in trouble, but
mostly me. I use some loaded language. I teach about that in my English class. Loaded language. I definitely used some last week. So
I consider myself the host. So I try to play moderate, even though I have my own opinions. But I you were I didn't disagree with anything you said, but we had some readers on Coug Center that did, particularly
and that's
one.
Okay. Disagreement's healthy.
Yes.
Even if they're wrong.
Even if you're wrong. Just be better at arguing.
Anything else we want to talk about?
So, I was on Facebook last week. And I was one of my friends who has a kid that's roughly the same age as Beatrix put this picture of her playing with a little tyke soup, and I'm like, wait, I felt like how have I not gotten my kid a little tyke soup? Because she loves watching basketball. Like she gets super excited. She's like, I've played with her at the Y and stuff. I dribbled around and whatever, and then she sees it on TV, and she gets really excited, and she plays with the full size basketball we have at home. And so I got her a little Tykes basketball. It comes with like 3 basketballs. It's like 2.5-foot hoop. And she just got so excited. And she instantly knew how to put the ball in the hoop, slam dunk. That's all she can do. She can't throw the ball yet, but she also is great at. I've actually used the hoop a lot more than she has so far. I just like play around with it all the time in the living room, which was to be expected. But she gets really excited because whenever she goes, she just grabs the ball randomly and goes and puts in the hoop. Her mom and I get really excited, and then we taught her that we would give her high fives, and no, so now she loves high fives. She goes like 5 and she comes up with her hand and she gives one to one of us, and then walks over and gives one to another of us, and then walks back to the other one and wants another one, and then it's like she needs at least 4 high fives before she's satisfied. After every dunk, and she claps, like she dunks and she looks at us and starts clapping. I think she's watched me watch basketball a little bit, but this over this last month, just watching me watch the tournament. But yeah, she's stoked about the basketball. Her mom doesn't really want her to play basketball because she doesn't want to hang out in gyms all the time. But I'm like,
no, you need to explain to Amanda that it could be worse. Like she could want to play soccer, and like you'd be standing in the rain all the time.
That's what I said. Like she's well, at least she's outside.
Way
I'm like, yeah,
no,
yeah,
way worse.
Yeah. You know where we live, right?
Way
like,
worse.
The weather isn't good most of the time.
Yep. No, like indoor sport. I mean, maybe volleyball or something. If she doesn't want basketball, but indoor sports are 100% the way to go.
Yeah. I just like, we're taking her to swim. She graduated to the next level of swimming lessons, which turned out to be the exact same class with the exact same teacher who drives us both crazy. So we were not excited about that. And there were like B was supposed to be like the youngest, like just now graduating to that class, and there were younger people in it, so apparently it doesn't even matter. So thanks, Y. Luckily, this teacher we found out after this session is moving to North Carolina, so she's just really annoying. I hope she's listening to this. Beatrix is in your class at one of the YMCA's in Tacoma, and we can't stand you. I hope you're listening right now.
I hope she feels properly shamed.
I hope you feel shamed. And that song you made up when I was there, it was terrible.
Terrible.
Because it's mostly singing these songs. Oh, and then Beatrix loves this one elephant song they sing. Like one elephant go to play over, and there's like all these hand motions with it, and so she doesn't know all the words, but she knows there's hand motions, so she just goes like da 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 and moves her hands, but none of the other kids know it. But apparently, like the teacher, this is from Amanda, like she kind of like sarcastic. Well, you're all too young to know how to do this, except Beatrix, because she's so old, she knows it. And I'm like, why you gotta be a bitch? Like, what the? Just get out of here. Like, stop shaming my kid for liking your damn song. But yeah, it's just it's pretty annoying. Oh, I forgot to mention, dude. Let's back to WSU for a second. Andre Dillard is one of 23 players that are invited to the draft.
Yeah, how about that?
I just saw it pop up. This is totally tangent. Sorry, everyone who's already given up, but that does not happen very often for WSU.
Well, and after practice, we were kind of standing around, me and Theo and Bill Stevens, who's the SID, and we were all like, Theo asked the question, who was the last guy to get invited? And we were all sort of racking our brains, and we figured it was probably Ryan Leaf, although it was sort of undecided at the end there. Bill wasn't sure if maybe Marcus Trufant had gotten invited because he went pretty high, I think 14 or something like that when he was drafted. Maybe it might have been higher than that. I don't remember, but I know it was in the upper half of the first round. So anyway, pretty cool, pretty rare. Also, pretty amazing for a guy who, came to WSU as a, basically a basketball power forward, and turned into an all Pac-12, left tackle, and potentially a top 20, top 15 NFL draft picks. Pretty wild.
Trufant was number 11, by the way.
There you go. That sounds right. I don't know if he was invited though.
Yeah, I don't know either. But yeah, just that's a lot. You can credit the program, but that requires a lot of effort and talent on Dillard's end to keep that athleticism as you gain roughly more than 100 pounds, and he's just impressed over and over again with as. Because we've seen some WSU lineman prospects not perform so well once they get to once they get to those evaluations, but he's done nothing but increase his prospects, and it's really cool. It makes you proud, and I hope he ends up on a team that I don't hate.
Yeah, that'd be nice. Unlike when Dayon got drafted by the Cardinals, and I had to be like,
Was he on Jacksonville now? Did you just get your Jacksonville?
I think that's where he is now, yeah. So now I can go back to being happy for him again. I mean, I was happy for him anyway. I'm not that petty, but,
I don't know. Jacksonville had those couple years when they looked like they were going to be good, but who knows? No, Tampa Bay. I'm sorry, Tampa Bay. I got my Florida towns.
Yeah, that's all right. I mean, either way, it's far from Seattle, not in the same division, so yeah, that works.
Yeah. So go down, go Andre Dillard, and cool, man. Go Cougs. Go Cougs. You got any kid stories? You got anything you want to?
No, although I wish my kids would perform at sports simply for high fives. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Because with my kids, they just don't they don't really like sports that much. I keep forcing them to play it, I think partly equally because just sort of equal measure, like I feel like it's a responsible parent thing to do, right? To get them to exercise and play, with other kids and, just kind of learn all the valuable lessons that sports, supposedly teach us. And then the other half is, I'm crazy about sports and I want my kids to like sports also. But it was funny. So Tristan, my middle child, who is 9, just finished basketball season. Man, he just was not. He has this tendency on the basketball court to just kind of float around and not really do anything productive. Just kind of run up and down the floor and not really find open spaces and play defense and rebound. And my kids are pretty tall. Tristan's actually he's taller than most other kids, even though he's like the shortest of my 3 relative to his peers, if that makes any sense. And so I finally got to a point where I was like, okay, Tristan, I will give you $5 if you get a rebound. And then all of a sudden his eyes light up and he's like, $5? And I'm like, yeah, I'll give you $5 if you get a rebound. And so all of a sudden that kind of refocused him, and he was running around trying to get rebounds, which he almost did a few times, but alas, he ended the year with 0 rebounds. But he did try. He tried awful hard, and the $5 did what it was supposed to do, which was focus him and get him concentrating on trying to track the ball. So it worked out okay, except for him because he never got the $5. But whatever. Baseball season. Now he's already trying to figure out. Okay, so baseball was a sport that he wasn't bad at last year. He's actually a pretty decent hitter. And so now it's like he's trying to figure out what I'm going to give him $5 for, and I'm like, I don't know, probably nothing, but we'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to tell when they're 17 months old if they're going to like anything that you like. She got really excited when she came out from her bath with her mom. And the Mariners game was on. And even though it was like she just saw the diamond, she did go to a lot of baseball games last year, so I don't know if she has any like sort of, I know the memories, it's hard to tell when they're, but like some recognition of it. But she saw the diamond and she saw the pitcher and she has started going the same thing she does when she goes basketball. She goes ball, 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 and like moves her hand up and down like dribbling. And so she did the exact same thing when she saw the baseball. So I'll just keep taking her to baseball games and soccer games and football games and basketball games. Well, I don't know how many basketball games she'll go to, but I'll just keep taking her to those things and hopefully she'll be obsessed. Amanda is bummed that she seems to be favoring me at the moment. Which is
that's real hard for moms, man.
Yeah, it's getting worse. There's times when I'm holding her and Amanda wants to hold her and she just flat out refuses to go to mom. And then mom dies inside.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Just the first of many times that daughter makes mom die a little bit inside. So, I'm so far she is being formed in my image. I hope that's a good thing. I don't know. She seems to be
as
pretty
long as she's
short.
Not drinking beer yet, you're okay.
Yeah, but I do worry about when she is in the teenage years and I got this cellar full of hundreds of beers. I'm gonna have to like print out an inventory and just like post it and have a sign that says I know every single beer that's in here.
That only works up until a certain age. Like I've got my kids thinking, so a couple of them have phones, and we talked about this on a very long ago podcast. But I told them when I gave them the phones, we can see everything, and they were like, "Oh my God, really?" And I'm like, "Everything, all of it." And they were like, "Oh, okay." I'm not sure yet what the age is when they will realize that I can't, but I'm hoping I've bought myself another maybe year or two. I don't know, but yeah, you're gonna have to you're gonna have a padlock on that thing to which only you have the key. You're really gonna have to put a new door handle on, and maybe a deadbolt where like literally you only have the key, and that's it. Otherwise, B and her friends are gonna have a party. She'll be like, my dad's got hundreds of these things. He'll never notice.
But the funny thing is I totally would notice.
Probably would actually eventually. Maybe not right away.
I have over 700 beers right now, and if one was missing, I probably would know. Like if I actually, I mean, if the ones in boxes, they could definitely get away with for a bit, but I would find out eventually, and then it becomes even worse. And like once I find out eventually, I'm like, I didn't drink this beer. Excuse me. Of course, Beatrix is an angel and would never do that. But,
yeah, of course she would.
But yeah, so I do think I remember when I was a teenager, going in my friends' parents' liquor cabinets, and we would pour some out and then pour water in them. But I do think with beer you can't do that. Like you'd have to be pretty impressive to figure out a method for that. So I'm hoping that beer is a little more of a deterrent than the hard alcohol.
Yeah, I think I would hope so. I mean, a lot of kids they drink beer and they're like, this doesn't even taste good, So.
Oh yeah, and a lot of my beers, it's like they really won't taste good.
Yeah, those aren't beers for people to drink first.
No,
most of those.
Yeah, I'll just like give her like a really sour beer and be like, here, this is what beer tastes like.
Yeah, sure, try some of this, and she'll be like, oh my god. At first she's thinking, my dad's the coolest. He's going to give me a taste of his beer. And then she's going to be like, oh my God. Oh my God.
This tastes like hay and like it makes my tongue hurt. And then you're like, yep, that's what it's supposed to taste like. All beer tastes like that.
It's like
every single beer does. I just won't give her like
a sugary payoff.
One of the beers I had this weekend from Holy Mountain, and I do have a couple in my cellar, is their hazelnut cocoa midnight still, and that is a sweet, delicious beer. And I'm sure that if you had never had beer and you had only had sweet, then you'd have a taste of that and be like, this is what beer tastes like? That's amazing. So I would never want them to get into anything like that, because then they'd be like, oh, pastry stouts, yum. That's what all beer's like. It tastes like candy. Yeah, so
yeah, I'd stay away from those. Give her something like, I don't know, something with like 100 IBUs or whatever.
Oh yeah, just give her the bitterest IPA I can find.
Yeah,
and just
here you go. This is what all beer tastes like.
Yeah, I remember my first IPA. It was Pike's IPA, which is not a very good IPA still.
No,
but it was. I remember my friend brought it home from Seattle, and we had it because we were like dabbling in craft beer and whatever they had at the Winco for like less than $7. And it was, I just thought it was the most disgusting thing I ever had. And I didn't drink IPAs for years after that. And then I realized that everyone else was drinking them. So I like weaned myself onto them. And then they became the only thing I would drink for a while, which I think a lot of people go through. And now I'm like, yeah, IPAs are good. And because they're pretty much the only thing you see anywhere. And IPAs are totally different now than they used to be. But anyways, I'm digressing. I think we're about out of time here, Jeff. I think our readers are out of time, our listeners.
Yep, I think we're there.
But I hope we didn't say anything that's going to spark controversy this week. I don't think we did.
I don't think we did. I didn't call the president a racist this week, so
yeah.
That's good.
You definitely didn't call the president a racist.
Definitely didn't.
Yep.
Let the record show.
Yep. All right. Well, so as Jeff said earlier, follow us on Twitter at Pod versus Everyone. If you have questions or comments, you can reach us on there. If you don't like Twitter, you don't want to go on there, we have an email at podcastversuseveryone@gmail.com. You can follow me at the Craig Powers. I have been waffling between 1,499 and 1,500 followers. I would love to just break through that 1,500.
Yeah, put Craig over the top.
Put me over the top. Go Cougs, and Jeff is going to have some fun stuff to talk about next week. I know he is.
Yes, I am. Go
All right,
Cougs.
thanks everyone. Go Cougs.